everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to our presentation about security studies today. We'll start by introducing what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to talk or give a basic presentation about our program with me and one of the tutors, so one of the teachers of the program. We'll talk about first year courses, how our teaching philosophy goes, student experiences, the staff at the university, and so much more around it. But let's start with introducing ourselves. My name is Joris van Buiten. I'm a second year student and one of the student ambassadors for security studies. I'm 21 years old, originally from Rotterdam, but I now live in The Hague. Yeah, that basically.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine Howard. I'm one of the tutors or junior lecturers with the Bachelor of Security Studies. I teach largely second year courses, but of course first year courses as well. And yeah, we're happy to have you here today.
So the outline of today is that we're going to give the presentation. If you have any questions in the meanwhile, you can ask them in the chat box to the right of your screen, and we'll happily answer them after our presentation.
So, before we get started with everything, what is security studies actually about? Well, security studies, this bachelor, is a combination of safety and security science that was created largely because of demand. It's very, well, as current as ever, if you will. So what we do in the bachelor is examine both types of cases, security and safety, about how they're intertwined. And then we also look at objective and subjective perspectives, as well as the complexities of those two perspectives. So what is perceived and what is statistics, what are facts about this? And lastly, what's important about this bachelor is that it requires academically trained professionals and also produces them because there's a large demand in the job market for this. So what we hope by the end of this bachelor is that you're prepared to go out there as an academically trained security studies professional and take on what happens in the world. And here we have precisely what we mean, the difference between safety and security. In Dutch, we have one word for this, it's veiligheid, but in English, we have two words, so security and safety. And security is protection, from intentional harm, and safety is protection from accidental harm. Why we look at the two, though, is because they're often difficult to decipher what is safety and what is security, because they happen at the same time. So it's important that we have a look at both. And that's what we really delve into in the program using case studies and literature. Yeah, further to that, we also examine it from 3 different levels and also approach it in different ways. What you can see here is that we have a multi-actor, multi-level, and global approach. The multi-actor approach is we're discussing all the different actors that could sort of participate or be a part of a security or safety case. This could be anything from public or private sector, international organizations, local participants, and then multi-level is anything from local up to international. So we examine problems at all those different levels. And last thing, global, what we really mean here is what we call in the program glocal. So something that is either local that has global effects or something that is global that has really strong local effects. Yeah.
So during our course, we'll be talking about 2 case studies. The first case study is case study Syria. And the case studies we use are meant as a safety and a security issue. So case study Syria is about the Syrian civil war that started in 2011. And it's going to talk about different disciplines that have something to do with it. So we're going to look at the history of the war, the Arab Spring, how, basically the history of the line that was created during the First World War. We're also going to look at international relations, about proxy warfare. How can international actors be influenceable in civil wars? And in addition to that, we're also talking about international law, about the principle of sovereignty. How are international actors allowed to be involved in national matters? Like, as for example, as America, can you basically send troops to Syria if you wanted to do that? Where you have to look at. We'll also be talking about sociology and a bit of psychology about why are foreign fighters going there? Why are people leaving Europe, going to Syria to become a foreign fighter, and even why they want to come back? And we're also talking about anthropology, about migration and everything surrounding migration, why people move here, why they leave their area, and how we can find solutions for that. And our second case study is case study Fukushima. Case study Fukushima is about a safety case, which is about the nuclear disaster that happened there after the Sendai earthquake. So we're going to look at history, lessons from the past about other nuclear accidents. But we're also going to be looking at international relations. How did international actors have influence or help the Japanese government with solving this issue? But also, for example, currently with releasing the water that was used to cool down the nuclear plants into the ocean. That's also a very international relations agenda, because other governments, like the government of Korea, are not happy that water gets released. We'll also be talking about international law, the functioning of the United Nations, and how they, for example, look at every nuclear reactor, how they have access to it, and how it functions with nuclear, anything that has to do with nuclear energy. We're talking about political science or public administration also a bit, of how you should govern, how it is governed, and how the government was during the crisis. So the crisis management of it. And we also will be looking at safety science, and which is the question, should we actually use nuclear energy or should we look at something else? So what to expect for today? What to expect for the course? The course is built up of an interdisciplinary approach with the philosophy of explore, understand, do. What this means is that during the exploring phase, you're going to look at facts and figures of the courses. So a good example of this is during the Civil War, which actors are involved, where are people fighting, how many people are involved in the fights. After that, we're going to do the understanding phase. The understanding phase is looking at different disciplines and different lenses, like I just talked about, including history, international law, international relations, to the conflict or to the issue, finding frameworks that you can use to get a better understanding. And then during the third and last phase, you will be doing security, where you'll combine all into one lens to really look at how the issue is.
And the cases that Joris just mentioned are a perfect example of that. So the first one being case study Syria, and then case study Fukushima, apply this exact principle. So the explore, understand, do, and the way we broke it down in terms of those disciplines should show you just that. Yeah, so as you can see, our bachelor program is made up of 4 blocks in 3 years. A block will be about 8 weeks. So during the first block of the first year, you'll be taught Introduction to Safety and Security and Skills Lab 1. This block will give you a basic understanding of safety and security issues, basic principles, basic theories, basic definitions that you're going to use throughout the rest of your bachelor and maybe even your master program or your future job. After that, we'll be talking about the studies, or the case studies I've just explained, so case study Syria and case study Fukushima. Next to that, you will also be having Skills Lab 2 and 3. Those Skills Lab are to develop more about your presentation skill, and they will be interlinked with the topic, but they are different topics, so they will also not be completely interlinked. And then during block 4, you're going to do an integrated project and introduction to research methods. Integrated project is one of them. Yeah, it's a really fun course because you get to do something which you can actually use. So you can make a business plan that you can use. You can make a movie, you can make a podcast, or you can make a crisis simulation. And it's really fun because you can also use it for future in the future. So for example, about a crisis simulation, if you're really good at it, you can go to an event that organizes it and try to win prizes with it. Mm-hmm. So then during your second year, you will be starting with vital interest and quantitative research methods, which I'm currently following. So vital interest is all about what is vital to governance, to governments or to people. How can we say something is vital, and does the vital interest of one government different from the other? You will also, next to this, you will have quantitative research methods, which will be about teaching you how to make surveys, how to use SPSS, which sounds a lot, but in reality it's a lot easier than you really
think or most people look at it. Then during block 2, you have terrorism and counterterrorism. I think the course already says it in the name, what you're going to be learning. And next to that, you have law and security. They also are different courses, but the courses can build upon each other, for example, with what counterterrorism efforts are there. Then during block 3, you will get cyber threats and qualitative research methods. You will learn about cyber warfare, basically anything included with cyber that's included in a safety or security issue. And during qualitative research methods, you will learn more about how to conduct interviews, to conduct interviews for your research and how to integrate them. And then during block 4, you have war and peace building and economics of safety and security. War and peace building will be about how can countries start war. It's also an interdisciplinary approach more. So you also be talking about, for example, ethics, like how can we start wars? Is it ethically responsible to get involved in other countries? And then for economics of safety and security, I think you can better talk about it.
Economics of safety and security is a course that I teach. Hopefully leading up to this point, what you can see is all the courses actually build on one another. But just to finish off, economics of safety and security is a course where we examine the economic both impacts and causes of safety and security cases and explore everything from sort of how this affects supply chains to sort of people at the local level. And we try to explore every aspect of this and use different case studies for it. I'll finish off with year 3. Basically, the last part, as you can see on the screen, is that you have an elective space. So this is going to be in your first block. You can do sort of a minor of sorts. This is also something that I teach on. There are many different minors that you can take as a security studies student, and we advise you to take advantage of this. However, you could also do something like an internship if that suits your study better. We really sort of pride ourselves on this elective space because it gives students the opportunity to sort of specialize or diversify some of their interests. And then we round off the year naturally with a thesis, but also integrated project 2. Joris spoke a bit earlier about integrated project 1, and this is basically an advanced version of this where you actually will be making a project for an external client, presenting this, and hopefully being able to actually work with them. So, yeah. The structure, moving on from this, is we'll have larger lectures where you'll get really more specific information, I suppose. It will give you an overview of what we're learning, but then when we get into what we call work groups, and those are split up into skills and course labs, what you can see on the screen, and Joris and I will talk about that in just a bit. We focus much more closely on certain content pieces in the work groups themselves. So we really focus on something that was mentioned in the lecture that's really important to understand, or we take one aspect and explore it a lot more deeply. Again, this sort of explore, understand, do, but at a more micro level. The rest of sort of what you can see on the screen here is to get you to sort of take away that this is a full-time bachelor where you have a full-time workload, and you are expected, of course, to be going to lectures, work groups, working outside of class, etc. Joris will talk a bit about this later, his experience with this. But you have different actors as well, so tutors like myself, lecturers who are giving the larger lectures, study coordinators and study advisors who are there to sort of help you through your academic career outside of just the teaching aspect. Each year you'll receive 60 academic credits for completing all of the courses. And then in your first year, you have your binding study advice, your BSA, which is 45 plus credits. Yeah, so at least 3 of those blocks of the first year.
So the workgroup setup start off with you for skills labs. Skills labs are taught in smaller groups of maximum of 16 students with a tutor. The skills lab will also be, as I mentioned, more interlinked with the general course that's going on. So if you have questions, you can always ask them to your tutor in the skills labs. Your tutors will also be at the larger lecture, so if you have questions about a topic, they will also have a great knowledge about it. And it's also really fun because in those skills labs, you will get to meet more students, basically. Inside of a lecture hall of 300 students, it may be a bit awkward to talk to everybody, but in the skills labs, you get to know each other more. It's also more interactive, so it's not sitting behind a desk, writing notes down. You can also do crisis simulations, for example, or you will do crisis simulations in which you have to work together or work against each other to achieve your goals.
Yeah. So those are all in year 1. And then in year 2, we have what are called course labs, as opposed to what we call a skills lab. And this is where we focus more on content-based information that's from the lectures directly. Skills, as yours has already explained, the skills labs are focused more on building your academic skills sort of in tandem with the lectures. But then course labs are to focus more specifically on the content and work with that content in that explore, understand, do manner. They're quite hands-on. However, there are fewer of them because they are associated with the lecture. So if you recall what we just showed you for the schedule, the skills labs are a separate class, but the course labs are not. Course labs are associated with lectures. And so there's about 4 of those per block, per class. So much less than skills labs, but there you'll focus a lot more specifically on what the lecturers want you to take away from the course and actually working to apply that information to real life cases. My favorite. We have international staff. So I think what's really important about this program, also speaking from my personal perspective, we have a group of a wide variety of people with different backgrounds, different academic backgrounds, different national backgrounds, and that brings sort of a dynamic element to our course where we can be constantly innovating and coming up with new ideas, new cases, and actually really sort of stay on top of this security theme that is so essential to this bachelor because we are sort of constantly changing things around to make sure that it's up to date and that you're getting information as soon as it comes. And we're able to do that because of our international staff. On top of this, the program is an English program, and so having international staff also ensures that you as a student, as well as your fellow students and the staff you'll be speaking to, will always be speaking to you in English, just to sort of streamline both your practice with it and then also make everyone on the same playing field when it comes to this.
Then I will start talking more about student experiences. Our program is located in The Hague, which is, in my opinion, a really nice city to have located. It's right next to the central station, where you will have the Faculty of Governance and Global Affairs. The inside garden of our campus is also the middle picture you'll see with the large building on top of it. So we're in a really modern building, which was used to be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but it's built in 2015. So it's still really modern. The university renovated it, and now we, as security studies with a few other programs, are here. But it's located in The Hague is really nice because we're in the center of it. It's next to the central station, so it's easy to go everywhere in the country, basically. But it's also close to Scheveningen, which is a really nice beach. So after a lecture, if it's nice weather outside, for example, you can take your swimming clothing with you and after the lecture go to the beach because it's only a 25-minute bike ride, or you can just take the tram. And it's also really nice in The Hague that it's less to do with student experiences, but more with the city itself. That it's a city of peace and justice. So, for example, the International Criminal Court is in The Hague, the International Court of Justice is in The Hague. One of the first conventions, the Hague Convention, about the conduct of warfare was in The Hague. It's really a center of where most of the things we get taught also started. Yeah. And then we'll talk more about the difference between the first and the second year. The difference between the first and the second year is mainly the courses you'll be having. So instead of skills labs, you will have course labs, which the course labs, as Kevin mentioned, are the same course, and the skills labs are next to the course. The skills labs are also in smaller groups. But what's really fun about this is that's an international community. So when you walk into your skills lab, you have many students from different nationalities with their own perspectives on some topics. And it's also really fun to get to know more people from the world, learn more about other cultures. A really great way to do this is through LSA Custodia. It's our study association. So our study association organizes formal events, such as going to an embassy maybe, with other students, but also informal events like a board game and field trips. So during block 3 of your first year, for example, they will organize a trip to one of the Dutch nuclear power plants, which is not guaranteed, but thus far they have done it every year almost. But they will also do nights out. So they will work together with other study associations For example, to have a night out in many different places. And another fun thing to do is a study trip they organize each year. So last year they went to Lake Como, where you get to do hiking. It's also a more informal trip, but you also get sometimes more formal trips, like the study trip in 2019 to Chernobyl and Kiev. But you can also join other associations, such as the Leiden UN Foundation, for example, where you basically can be following a prac track where you'll get taught everything about resolution writing, public speaking, so you get really, really good at it. And then you can actually go to a conference with them, to, for example, Madrid, to Harvard, or to another place in Europe, where you'll be taught there. And then you also have the staff and teachers, as Kirsten also already explained. What I'd like to add to that is that many of our tutors or junior lecturers are younger, so they still remember what it is to be a student. It will not be your high school teacher, which is 60 years old, has been teaching for 45 years about a topic. They still remember what it is to be a student, and that's also really fun to have. So we also have the mentoring program, which also helps you to connect with other students. It will be for the first semester, so for the first 2 blocks. And they will have a week, and you can have a weekly meeting with a second or a third year student. And they will host social events or other events. So, for example, they can organize a pizza night, but they can also say, for example, what I had was an exam for Introduction to Safety and Security. The day before, they organized an event that we could just go there and ask them questions about whatever we wanted in the course that we didn't understand, and then they would explain it to us, helping to make it understand better. And then I was talking about a typical week. I do have to say, though, a typical week for me is always a bit different, because if it's nice weather, I would like to go to the beach, and if it's not so nice weather, of course, I don't go to the beach then, so I do something else. But mainly my week will look something around this. So I would wake up in the morning, 10 o'clock, something around that period, sometimes a bit later, sometimes a bit earlier, depends on which classes I have. But what's really fun about security studies is how the times of the lecture are. So you will be in a classroom for about 12 hours a week, but all your classes, so your lectures or your work groups or your skills labs, will be 3 hours or around a period of 3 hours. So you will always have a day during the week off. And if that's on Friday, yeah, that's really nice to have on Friday, because then you have an extra weekend, basically. But what you can see is some courses are after each other, but studying is really important. What I also would like to add is many of the students in the Netherlands have a job next to it, which is not as much in other countries. So even though it's a full-time course, about 80% of Dutch students have a job next to their course to help with paying rent, for example. It's not mandatory to have a job. If you don't want to have one, don't have one, but most students do. And what's also really nice about university is that they have a gym themselves. So if you want to go to the gym, probably the lowest prices I've ever seen from gym membership, which is on the other side of our campus. So it's also really close by. So after a lecture, you can already go to the gym, or before a lecture, basically. Yeah, that's what I have to say about my schedule.
Yeah. So we'll jump now into a bit of the practicalities when it comes to the program. So admissions requirements. I'll just run through some basic things and then direct you to a place where you maybe can ask some more questions. First, just generally speaking, we do require a Dutch pre-university education diploma. This is VWO for those of you who are in the Dutch system, or an equivalent if you're not from the Dutch system. A first year or final diploma from a HBO, or University of Applied Sciences, your propedeuse, or a first year or final diploma of another university program that perhaps you've already started or completed. And then lastly, proficiency in English for international students is mandatory. Specifically, roughly a 6.5 out of our Dutch 10 scale is preferred, though it is not mandatory. And we've already received quite a few questions about admissions requirements. These are just sort of the core basics, but please do check out the website for more specific information or reach out via the chat for more specific information on admissions requirements. Sort of key to the admission requirement is what we have is this matching component. This is mandatory, it is compulsory for our sort of admissions process. Essentially what it is more or less a quiz or a test that you can take that demonstrates whether or not sort of the information or the expectations in the program fit what you're expecting for a bachelor program. At the end, we will sort of give you a conclusion to this exam, but however, the results are not binding. It's just sort of to give you an idea of whether or not the program is a good fit for you. So it is compulsory, but it's non-binding, but we do ask everyone to do it in order to make sure that sort of they're oriented toward the program. I don't know if you want to add anything about your experience with this?
Yeah, the experience, many students think it's a really long process, but it took me about 4 to 5 hours to complete it. And I did it across 2 days, so it took me also 6 hours. But it's not something to worry about. It's do what they say, read it a bit, you will get through it. Don't be scared about something. And as mentioned by Catherine already, if you fail it, don't worry. If you really want to do this course, it's non-binding, so you can still do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a robust process, but it gives you a good idea as to sort of if your expectations will be met or not. So our student populations exist of about 240 to 270 students each year, and they have 24 nationalities on average. For next year, of course, we don't know how many nationalities there will be, but those nationalities can be from everywhere around the world. So, of course, you have people from France, people from Germany, closer by, but you also have people from the United States, from Asia coming here. So it's a really diverse group. And what's also best about this program is that everybody can speak English, so everybody speaks English also. So even if you're an international student, do not be scared that there are only Dutch students going to be here, because there are many, many different nationalities and many people also don't speak Dutch. Yeah. And further to the point on having international staff, where it's beneficial in terms of having different backgrounds and perspectives on things, the same absolutely goes for having an international student body, and we really pride ourselves on this, that we're always able to have a dynamic conversation about safety and security issues that involves a lot of this sort of perceptive element that I was talking about at the very beginning, which is integral to being able to understand security. So it's very sort of insightful for all the students.
So after your bachelor program, the university advises you to go to a master. The Master of Security Studies is Crisis and Security Management, which has 6 tracks. I'm not going to read them out, but you can see them on the screen. Those 6 tracks are all in different disciplines and they're different topics. But you can also do a master program at any other university. So for example, political science in Lille, King's College in London. Most of the time we see that students from security studies go through to crisis and security management, because if you've completed security studies, you'll have a direct admission into it, so you will not have to do any tests to enter it, basically. The master program itself takes for about 1 year, and you will have, with the other tracks, you have one overlapping course. And then between the different disciplines, so sometimes governance of crisis, we'll have one course together with cybersecurity governance, or the other way around with other courses. So you will all be interlinked with each other still, even though you have different classes.
Yeah. And sort of further to the point on that elective space in your 3rd year, you can also use the Crisis and Security Management Master to continue to sort of focus on what you want your specialty to be, which is a nice use of that elective space going into your master in that sort of 4th year of your higher education.
So after security studies, most of them have done a master. We see that they go on to various different jobs. As you can see here on the screen, we have people who are a CDD analyst at ABN AMRO, which is a large bank in the Netherlands, which is basically about fraud detection. People do a traineeship in cybersecurity. They become lobbyists for political firms. They become consultants. But we also have people that after security studies join the military, as Oliver Gerrits, for example. He's now an officer in the Dutch Navy. But you can see there's a very wide background of what students actually do after this program, which is what we also see, as you can see on the screen. Most students, depending on what you do in your elective space or what you do in your master, you can go to a lot of places. We'll see that the career perspectives are in various different fields, but most of the time they stay to policy advisors, consultants, or working at large companies with safety and security issues. So current students work in the field of politics. Currently, they work at the Port of Rotterdam, which is one of the largest harbors in the world. The Ministry of Defense, the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They work for the Kosovo Specialist Chamber and Prosecution Office. They work for Deloitte, which is also a consultant agency. So we see they go to a wide variety of companies and job opportunities in the Netherlands itself, but also on an international level.
Yeah, and we hope that by the end of the Bachelor, you're also sort of prepared with that safety and security experience to actually go to all of these places. And all of these different industries, they have a need for security, academically trained security students, because it is essential no matter what you're doing. And we hope that you can see this on the screen here, the wide variety of places that people now work. Security is everywhere, it's current, and there's always a need for it. So having that sort of education is integral.
So, of course, there's an online open day, but you can also meet us on campus if it's possible. So on the 25th of November, we have our experience day, in which you'll be taught a mini lecture of about 45 minutes to an hour, after which you will have a mini skills lab, where you will be with the 16 students, as mentioned before. You can really get an understanding of how the course is going to play out and do a lecture yourself too, so how it is to sit in there. But we also have an open day coming up, an in-person open day at our campus on November 4th, where at least I will also be giving a presentation over there at that moment. We can also ask questions to other prospective students. The other option you have is a student for a day, which we have organized on the 10th of October and the 18th of October. For the internationals, it's really close by. But until May, we'll announce more student for a day events as we come closer to it, since we have to wait for course manuals and rosters of the professors when they will be teaching. So we cannot really say what a student of a day in February is going to be yet. But you can also look for more information and registration with the QR link on the screen.
Yeah. Lots of opportunities to come visit us, so we hope that you will. If you need more information, you can reach out to sort of any of these places on the screen, go to our university website, reach out to student ambassadors, study coordinators, and they can help you with questions about anything that you may need. Further to that, we will ourselves jump on to answering some of your questions that you've been waiting to be answered this entire time. We've got a question. Will the lectures also be recorded so you can watch them back later? This is actually a great question. You can jump in here afterwards. I'll start off with this. So the lectures are... will the lectures be recorded? Largely, the answer is yes, for the sake of them being kind of backlogged, if you will. In the event that there is a student that needs a specific accommodation to receive them, yes. However, what we tend to do, our sort of MO, if you will, is we will post the slides for you somewhere, but we don't post the actual lectures themselves. We encourage students to attend lectures in person, and sort of the program functions now almost entirely in person after sort of the come down of COVID, if you will. I don't know if you want to add to that?
Not really. So there can be a special circumstance. So if there's a special situation, yeah, you can watch the lectures live, but they will not be made available for you afterwards. So we go on to the next question. If security studies has a numerous fixes, or if you're 100% sure you get in once you have done the application. So security studies does not have a numerous fixes. You do have to do a matching module, which may look like a numerous fixes, but once you have completed the matching module, you will be in the course. So if you apply, you can always enter.
So what is the difference between the student for a day and an experience day? Joris, maybe you want to explain?
A student for a day event is where you go with one of the student ambassadors and some other students to a lecture given with other students. So you will walk into the lecture hall where 250 students will be sitting, and you will join in a live lecture that people will make an exam on. The experience day itself is on a Saturday also, and that is a side lecture. So the lecturer of a topic that the professor wants to talk about will give a mini lecture about it for about an hour. And you can go to the lecture hall. It will not be with other students, so it will only be with prospective students. And you can also take your parents to the experience day, which may be more comfortable for you.
Yeah, I sort of like to explain the difference. A student for a day is a shadowing experience. So you come into the university and you are with one of our student ambassadors and essentially follow them around, ask questions, but you're really sort of in it with other students. An experience day is sort of more in a bubble, I would say. You, again, as Joris mentioned, come on the weekends and you have a set sort of schedule, mini lecture, mini course. Yeah, so we hope you've answered this for you. Yeah.
So examples of minors you can take in the third year. So the minors offered by our institute are the minors of global affairs, which Catherine maybe can talk about a bit more. Because yeah.
If you have specific questions on global affairs, you can either find it on the website or ask some more questions here. But we have a global affairs minor. We have a minor in political violence, for example, intelligence, things of that sort. So most of the ISCHA or the Institute for Security and Global Affairs, most of their programs have an associated minor in some capacity. So there are a lot of options within the Institute, but there are other minors that you can take outside if that's something you've agreed upon with your study coordinators. So a lot of the sort of main themes that are sort of conducted in our institute where security studies takes place has an associated minor of some sort. And any of those you can take in your third year.
Yeah, so to add a bit on that also, the minor you want to take does not specifically have to be at Leiden University. Exactly. Even though they're related to the course, you can do a minor at any university in the Netherlands. We have a partnership with TU in Delft and the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, which will be allowed to join their minors. If you want to do a minor outside of those three universities, you'll have to ask permission from the study advisors, but as long as they're related to the course, or you can argue why it's related to the course, you can also do those minors.
Yeah, so lots of opportunities there. Who do you have as external clients for the projects? First of all, Integrated Project 1 is an internal course. So departing from that notion, Integrated Project 2 is, as we mentioned, this larger project-based course where we conduct work for external clients. A couple of examples are we've had TNO in the past, we've had Centers for Civilians in Conflict, other NGOs around The Hague.
We've had Schiphol, the largest airport in the Netherlands. Yeah, those are the ones I remember.
Yeah.
But there are a variety of jobs, and also it's a really good project to make connections, because if you completed this bachelor and did a master afterwards, there's a big chance you're going to work at one of those companies. So it's really nice to also make a network with it.
Yeah. So those are just some examples. The clients can also change from year to year. So it sort of depends. But what's really nice about it, I think, just to add something here, is that when you work with one of these clients, if you and your group that you're working with are producing something that is, you know, really high quality and meets their expectations, they are actually willing to take that and use it, publish it on their website, or use it for one of their internal functions, which has happened to our students in the past. So it's really a great course. Where do students get employed after this degree? How long do they take after a diploma to find employment? How do you help find internships and then jobs? Do you have CV reviews, etc.? Helping with practice interviews. These are a great set of questions. I don't know if you'd like to speak immediately.
I can add on this.
And then I'll add to it after.
So we've also already shown a bit where you can get employed after this degree, so I would revisit that slide. Most of the time, it depends a bit on how long after your diploma, also on personal circumstances, if you want to stay in The Hague, if you want to move internationally. So it's really case to case how long it will take. But the university helps you to find internships, for example. I forgot the specific name. Trial? What's its name? It was Trial, which there will be numerous internships available through there where you can apply. Yeah. And the university also has a career service of which you can make use. Even after you finish your bachelor or master program, after a year, you can still make use of the career service that can help you with your CV review, but they can also give mini lectures about how to make a great LinkedIn page and how advice on what to do during interviews.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think sort of further to this, we have sort of study coordinators that work with the program, and they keep you up to date on different internship opportunities and different events that sort of career services is going to put on to help you. Also, our student associations actually work with these topics as well. So for Custodia, for example, that Joris has spoken about before, we'll also have sessions on CV review or practice interviews, etc.
In case of COVID again, can you be fully online with engaging format and support? So I'm not really sure what to... we're probably not going to be fully online again. COVID has passed, and let's hope it does not come back, to say so. But we've have been teaching during COVID, so I think it's still possible to make it fully online again. But it's not for the better of the course. Like the skills labs and the course labs, to be in there in the room, to be in the lecture hall, it's way better to learn from it because it's much easier to also ask questions to your tutors or to your professors.
And while I agree, being in person is, of course, fantastic. We are fully capable of going online. During COVID, we did transfer everything and used an online platform. And we were still able to make it engaging for students and sort of have, at times, a hybrid format when this was permitted or fully online. And we just basically changed the way that we teach course labs. Lectures are still going to be given in a digital format. Some of you online might actually be used to that already. It'll sort of be something like this. But our classes, we just changed the way that we teach the material to have you sort of learn new ways via digital technology to accomplish the same things we would ask you to do in class otherwise. So yeah, it's actually quite flexible, and we're very prepared for it regardless. We just hope it doesn't happen. Yeah. Does the Security Studies Bachelor also grant access to a master's in another field of international relations, for example, human rights or developmental studies? That's a great question. The Bachelor Security Studies grants access in the sense that it definitely prepares you to do this. When we talk about the jump from Security Studies to Crisis and Security Management, this is sort of an automatic into that master because you have completed the Bachelor associated with it. However, we have loads of students that go on to do other masters in those fields. And then also a lot of times you can find something within Crisis and Security Management that would actually suit your interests. So that is sort of up to you, but it doesn't permit an automatic acceptance into a different master program as Crisis and Security Management does. Hopefully I've answered your question.
So can you learn a language in this program? Security Studies itself does not offer a language within the program, but what you can do with the university is the Academic Linguistics Center. It's a side program, so you will have to pay for it yourself, which is a small fee, which is actually cheaper for students, so students get a discount, in which you can learn many different languages from around the world. So I've done French at the Academic Linguistics program, but you can also learn Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and go on with how many languages there are. You can also look it up on the website of the Academic Linguistics Center of Leiden University, and they will show you exactly how the format of classes will be. Most of the time it will be an evening class in either Leiden or in The Hague, where you will be taught by a teacher.
Yeah. Basically, there is time to do this alongside the course. It's just not a part of the course itself. But yeah, absolutely check out the website of the university. It'll be really helpful for you. So it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. If you come up with something, please refer to the chat that's on the website that you're on now. But otherwise, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you next year.
Yeah. Basically that. Hope to see you next year.
Yeah.